You can bring a half zip today to the golf course and be completely comfortable. You can have a hot chocolate right now and also be comfortable. Excited for the opening round a day away, but we got plenty to talk about before we get there. Got so much to chat about with this U.S. Open. Of course, we've got big names to chat about as well, as we're joined by Jay Croucher from PointsBet. And Jay, first things first, let's take a look at the outright odds. Who is leading that list?
It's Rory McIlroy, familiar face. Look, Rory is the form golfer in the world right now. Finished second at the Masters, 8th at the PGA Championship, and then the win at the Canadian Open last week. And the thing is that people love betting on Rory McIlroy. I think they love Rory McIlroy full stop. So when he's in form, he's going to attract a lot of activity, and he's going to be at the top of odds boards as he is this week.
Jay, what about Jon Rahm, our defending champion at the U.S. Open Championship? Jon Rahm coming in, hoping to add a second U.S. Open title in as many years. Where does Jon Rahm land now after winning that first major title?
Yeah, so Jon Rahm is plus 1,500, so he's kind of in that second group just after Rory. And as much as people love betting on Rory McIlroy, they don't really like betting on Jon Rahm because the past 12 months, he has been consistently the favourite for tournaments, and he just doesn't win that much because it's just hard to win golf tournaments. But he did win the US Open last year. He does have the Mexican Open this year. And I think that, Rahm, he was a guy who, at the end of last season, he was reaching odds as short as any golfer that we've seen since peak Tiger Woods. That's how good we thought he was. And it just hasn't really come together for Rahm this season necessarily, where he's had different issues with his game, but all the pieces are there. I still think he is the most talented golfer in the world when he's on. And who knows, this week, it might be his week again.
Well, exactly, because last year at 10-1 odds, he did get it done. Was he your largest liability last year as the odds favorite? And who is it so far this week?
He was not our largest liability last year. Fortunately for us, that was Brooks Koepka, who people adore betting on in majors. They just think Brooks gets the eye in for the big tournaments. This week, it's a guy named Phil Mickelson, who's our biggest liability at 200-1. You guys might have heard of him. He is, look, I don't think he's going to win the US Open, but didn't think he was going to win the PGA Championship last year at similar 200-1 odds. So, look, it would be an incredible story. I don't think he's going to do it, but who knows? And in terms of perhaps more realistic candidates, Matt Fitzpatrick is 25-1. He's attracted a lot of activity. 3 top 10s in his past 4 starts, and he also does have some good history at this venue, so he might be a guy to watch as well.
Well, speaking of Matthew Fitzpatrick, he's a guy that the odds have changed actually quite a bit over the course of the last couple of months. He actually was as low as 50-1 just a couple of months ago, and now up to 25-1, if I'm not mistaken, as high as 18-1 June 9th, which was after 36 holes of the RBC Canadian Open just last week. How are odds determined, and how do they shift this much? Is it just current play, or is it people figuring out that he won the 2013 U.S. Amateur here?
Yeah, I think the performance in 2013, it's not a massive factor, but it can't hurt. It can't hurt him. And so that stuff helps. And then the main thing with Fitzpatrick has just been recent form. The way we're setting odds on players is, we have the baseline of what we think their skill is, and then it's adjusted based on how they're playing recently, what form they're bringing into the tournament. And Matt Fitzpatrick's form, like I said, 3 top 10s in his past 4 starts. His form is almost as good as anyone's, and so that's why his odds have changed.
Well, speaking of the country club in this venue, we've talked this week a lot about the history that's been involved. Well, historically, the 3 U.S. Opens that have been played here have all ended in playoffs. Do you take into account the history of that when you're looking at, for example, setting the margin of victory odds or the playoff prop bet odd? Does that matter to you at all?
A little bit. I mean, it's difficult because it's such a small sample of golf that we've seen, at this venue, particularly in recent history. But what I will say is the thing that we do know is that it's going to be a difficult course, as US Open courses always are. And so that's why we set right now. We think the winning score is over under 276.5. So we think that 4 under wins this tournament. And when such a low score is predicted to win the tournament, that means that there is more likelihood of a playoff or of, a one-stroke victory. So that's definitely something to take into account.
4+ stroke win. I like that number at plus 325 there, Jay, considering the way Rory McIlroy has played as of late. Scottie Scheffler, of course, winning the Masters. JT at the PGA Championship. How have their major odds changed for you guys?
So JT, not so much, just because he's been elite for so long, and you almost expect him to win a major each year or at least come close. Scottie Scheffler, though, he has been the big mover, where right now we see, from an odds perspective, a big four in golf, where it's JT, it's Scottie Scheffler, it's Rory McIlroy, and it's Jon Rahm. And who is favoured out of those four each week is mainly going to depend on recent form. But Scheffler has been the surprise. He's been winning tournaments for fun this season. And, we probably expected it was more likely that Colin Morikawa or Victor Hovland, of the young guns, maybe they were more likely to leap up into this group with the Jon Rahms and Rory McIlroys of the world. But it's been Scottie Scheffler. He's been undeniable. And I expect that we'll see him at the top of odds boards for the foreseeable future.
Jay, you got a little room to your left. You could add about 3 more computer screens, I think. You could just maybe a couple more computer screens behind you. I think would really help your situation going forward. We always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for the insight.
Thanks, guys.